These were all skills and strategies that she implemented on her journey to build generational wealth, on her journey from business to business to business. And she was able to become more in that process of developing and of growing her business. She was amazing. And I personally never thought to study her as a businesswoman until this week. I always studied her as a really great wife, but she had so much more going on. So join me, grab your Bible, grab your notebook, and let's dive into it. I'm going to be reading the verse off my laptop and my study notes. I suggest that you would take notes and then just go back and study it for yourself, because it's not just something ever. The Bible is never something that you can just study one time and then be done with it. And I think that's the biggest mistake I make, is just reading it over once and thinking I have it, but it's not until I actually sit down and meditate on what I've learned day after day, week after week, where it actually starts to transform my soul and the way that I live and do life. So let me just pray and then let's study her. So Lord, I just pray that you would open the eyes of our understanding, give us a spirit of revelation, inspire us, and help us to understand your word in the way that it was meant to be understood. Use my lips as lips of clay just to speak forth your wisdom and your words, so that we can all understand this verse even more than we ever have before. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, we all know that Proverbs 31 woman is the ideal wife. It is literally called the wife of a noble character. And she does have this noble character, and she is wise and intelligent. She's a hard worker. She is an inspiration. If you actually study her, it blows me away what this woman did. And back then, things were harder. So that's why we study her as a character that we all need to have. And that's going to be a separate video, because truly her character is something that we need to strive to have. And the way she goes about life is just something that we should study. We should be studying her characteristics, her values, her strategies, her priorities, patterns, and she has multiple different streams of income. But I really want this to be a short video. I'm just going to focus on her strategies for this video, and then in the next one we'll maybe do her characteristics, and then in the one after that we will do her streams of income, so that we can actually implement what she did into our lives and get results, because that is truly the point of understanding the Bible. Mind you, let me just say this, it is obviously first and foremost to come to salvation. Second, to have a relationship with God and to know Jesus. And then out of that knowing, out of that seeking the kingdom, it is to progress your life in God's will. So I'm going to just quickly read the verses, and then we're going to break down each one. A wife of a noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand she holds the distaff and grasps the spindles with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. Do you see what I'm saying? This woman is of value in all that she does. It's not only that she is selfless and focused on what her family needs, but this woman is of value in all that she does. It's not only that she is selfless and focused on what her family needs, but she is wise in her business affairs. She is a leader. She is able to manage and balance all things in her life with ease. And so let's dive into this, and I'll tell you where I'm gathering all this, and let's study it. How can we implement her strategies into our life? Basically, she excelled in all that she did. She was productive. She was focused. She had values and integrity, and she worked with excellence and provided that value not just to her family and her servants, but to the marketplace as a businesswoman. So we're going to start at 31:16. So she considers a field and buys it, and out of her earnings she plants a vineyard. So just by reading that verse, we can tell that this lady did not act out of emotions. She was wise in all her business decisions, and she used that wisdom to make those decisions. So that means she would have had to do her due diligence. She would have had to do research on the field that she wanted to buy, and she would have had to have had some sort of understanding in real estate. So she's buying land and she's selling it, but she's not doing it from an emotional standpoint. And I'm touching on this because I personally am very spontaneous in all that I do, and I like to do things that make me feel good. And I think far too often we've kind of normalized this. Well, if it feels good, it must be God. But that's not always the case. We can see that it actually takes due diligence and study and hard work and dedication to know the next step that you need to take in business, and to know where you should be investing your money so that you can do it with wisdom and so that you can get profit out of that business decision. And we can also take away from this verse that she had vision, not just for what she wanted to do right now, but for her family's future. Because buying land back in those days was quite a long-term investment. It wasn't quick flips the way we do things now, but to buy land meant you were investing in your future. It wasn't short-term gain, it was long-term gain. So we can see that this woman was focused on the future of her family. She was looking at what she had in her hands right now and how she could take what she had now and invest it into something that would yield returns for the future. So some takeaways from this is that what we can do now is look at what God has placed in our hands now. What has He given us to steward over right now, and how can we take that and invest it into our future? We need to have that mindset of longevity, of future focused, and to work hard for our future. I know our day and age is so different than it was back then. In a lot of ways it's easier, but there's a lot of distraction. It's hard for us to focus on a future goal when everything is so instant. There is instantaneous shopping. You can buy it and get it delivered the same day. There is quick money, fast money, and it just makes you not want to focus on the future because you're so focused on getting that money right now. But what we can take away from her is that what we have now is actually a seed for our future. So whatever God has given you to steward over right now, that money is not put in your hand to pay your bills and to go buy yourself nice stuff, but it is put in your hand as a seed for your future. So she was taking her seed and reinvesting it into the future. Strategy 1, she was wise, and she used her wisdom to take her seed of now and reinvest it into the future. So looking at what you have now and seeing how what you have can be reinvested for your future, for the future of your family. 31:13. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. And we're also going to look at 31:27. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. So what we're looking at right now is her diligence, her hard work, her focus, her sacrifice, her persistence. This woman was always focused on where she wanted to get to and keeping in mind who she was responsible over. She was able to prioritize what needed to be done, and she developed work ethic. She was hardworking to make sure what needed to be done now got done for her future. So she was able to become this woman who worked hard now to get to where she needed to be. And to be that woman, it took diligence, focus, sacrifice, persistence, obedience to God. It took her being able to become this person who was willing to sacrifice her own comfort for her family. This point kind of goes into the next one because we're going to be looking at 31:18 as well. But she's picking flax and she's picking wool, and then she's working with her hands. And then 31:18, she sees that her trading is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night. She's using wisdom in the materials she selects. We're first going to start here because flax and wool were very quality ingredients back then, and they were of value. So she took quality ingredients and she selected them very carefully, meaning she was not just accepting whatever, but she knew what she wanted and she wasn't settling for something less because she knew that the value in those materials would bring value to her items that she was going to bring to the marketplace. And so flax and wool were used for different seasons. Wool was very heavy and it would be great for winter stuff, whether it's blankets or winter coats, things like that. Whereas flax was more of a summer material, which could be used for sheets and just lightweight clothing. So that right there tells us that she was wise in what she picked because she was able to bring materials to create products that could be sold in winter and in summer. So she wasn't just saying, I'll take whatever I can get. She was very meticulous about what she invested her money into so that she could bring those items to the marketplace and provide value. And she made her materials and she made her items and her products with excellence. So in all that she did, she worked eagerly with her hands, and she made sure that her trading is profitable and that her lamp doesn't go out at night. So she's aware of what she needs to do to bring those valuable items to the marketplace, and she's willing to do them. So she is creating excellent products and she's bringing to the marketplace what the marketplace needed at that time. So you need to be aware of what is of value in your time. How can I not just bring that value to the marketplace, but how can I do it with excellence? How can I make sure that what I bring is the best of my ability? So making sure you're picking those quality materials or whatever it may be for your business, but doing it with excellence and bringing that quality to your marketplace, to your industry, to your business, because you understand that in all that you do, it should be done with excellence. We need to be making sure that what we're bringing to the marketplace is of value in our time and is quality. It is made with excellence. 31:19 says, in her hand she holds the distaff and grasps the spindles with her fingers. Looking at now is her making material out of the flax and the wool. And this was actually a very tedious job, and it took a great skill to be able to do that. So we can see that she had skill, if that wasn't evident already, but that she was resourceful. So not only was she making products out of the wool and the flax, but she was actually making the material to make products. So what we can take away from this is that what God has placed in our hands, what he has given us to steward over, is currently enough for where we need to get to. And sometimes it takes being resourceful to get there. And it takes us being a little bit more creative to say, well, I have this. What else can I do with this? Can I create more things out of what God has placed in my hand? Can I be resourceful like her? Can I get all that is possible out of this product or this material or this service or this business? How can I stretch it farther to create more revenue, more avenues of success for my business? Instead of just thinking in the box, we actually have to think critically and creatively and pray about it. How can we go beyond where we've been while still using what God has placed in our hands? And this is something that I actually am going to be praying about and thinking about, because there's so many other ways I personally could profit my business that I currently have. I just need to get more creative. I need to pray about it. I need to ask God for wisdom and for ways in which this business can be taken to different avenues and different marketplaces. But we have to know that that is possible with God. And she is a good example of someone who uses what's in her hands and produces multiple streams of revenue from it. And she does it by learning new skills. She does it by delegating tasks. She is managing what she has well. And that would mean we know she's resourceful. We can see by the way she lives her life. But she also would have to be very prepared to do this. It takes preparation. So we need to consider what she might be doing with her time to prepare for these tasks, to learn these new skills, to be able to manage her servants and her businesses effectively. And these are all new skills and new priorities we need to implement into our business in order to be able to live similar to how she did and to be profitable in our businesses. I'm going to go back to 31:16 and 31:24. 31:16, she says she considers a field and she buys it, and out of her earnings she plants a vineyard. I'll just stop here, go over this, and then go to the next one. But we can see that she is profiting from her business transactions. And it shows us that she made good decisions. She was intelligent, she was wise. And why? Because she made sure she did her research before she started it. And also she is entrepreneurial. So now she's got a little bit more money, and she's taking that money and she's reinvesting it once again. So this is likely how it was done. She had her materials that she would sell. She made her products that she would sell to get her a little bit of money. Then she would take that money and reinvest it into buying land. And then she got more money out of this land and she would reinvest it into a vineyard. So she is always profiting, and she is taking the profit and reinvesting into her future. So a vineyard is going to be even more long term. It's something that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, more skills for her to learn how to produce more products out of this vineyard. So she's very wise in her decisions. And at this point, she sold her field, she sold her land that she bought. And now she could have said, I am going to buy myself a Louis Vuitton bag. I'm going to go to Gucci and I'm going to treat myself. Look at me, I worked hard for this money. But she does not think that way. You can see the way her mind works. She's saying, look at this money that I have now to reinvest once again into the future of my family. So she is so selfless, focused on her family and on how she can benefit that family, how she can progress that family, how she can profit her family, rather than thinking of how she can treat herself after making a good business transaction. She is forward focused once again. She is always looking forward onto how she can become more, how she can do more, and how she can bless her family more. So it really goes to show that her mentality was selflessness, and she was so focused on her family, the family unit. This woman was the glue of her family, which is why her husband knew the value that she brought and why she is just so precious that she's hard to find, because not a lot of women, and they said that back then. Imagine now how many women truly can fit into this category. It's not very many. So many women don't have that focus of, I am the glue of the family. My husband is the head, but I am the glue. I am holding this family together. And I too need to be focused on the well-being of my family. I too should be focused on how my family can get ahead financially, of how we can create that generational wealth, because it's not just the husband's job. As you can see, she actually played a huge part in that. And that's what she's doing here. She's creating generational wealth. A vineyard is something that's going to likely stay in her family, and it's going to continue to produce products that they can sell and make income off of, but it's going to be a long-term family business. And it's also important that we look at the fact that she has diversified her income. So she started with just materials, and out of material, guys, she constantly use her creativity, her innovation to create out of a material. And then you see how she took a small material and created generational wealth out of that. And it's because she was entrepreneurial. She was focused on where she was going and not on where she is. I'm sure there were times when she wanted to go shopping and take a trip, but she didn't, because well, maybe she did. But what we're focusing on now is how she spent that money wisely and invested into her future. 31:20, she opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. It's pretty simple. We know what she's doing here. She's giving to the less fortunate. She's giving to the ones who need it. She is following God's principles. Everywhere in the Bible, God says, give to his people. We should give generously and it will be given unto us. And this is a principle that I learned, and it is, in giving, the Lord honors us, but we have to give from our heart, not under compulsion, but give what you want to give. And we can see how she honored the Lord's principles of giving, and he continued to bless her business. In another way that we can see that she's selfless. She was always willing to give to those who needed it. She was willing to wake up at night and provide for her family, for her servants, and to bring them the best. So just remember that she had this mentality and this characteristic of selflessness, of putting others first. 1:15, she gets up while it's still night. Oh, look, I didn't know we were going here just yet. She gets up while it's still night and she provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. Not only does this show the selflessness that we just talked about, but she's a leader. We can see it in her actions. She uses a team to get stuff done. She delegates, and she has good relationships. And this is something for sure that I personally need to work on, is the fact that it's okay to have a team of people. It's okay to ask for help. In fact, asking for help, partnership, is actually a strategy we should be using in business to progress our business and to use our time more wisely. So we can see this lady had multiple businesses. She had a family, she had children, she had servants, she had a husband. All of them would have needed something from her. And there's just no way she would be able to accommodate all of their needs if she didn't delegate to other people. So there is a skill to learn here, and it is how to be a leader. It is how to communicate effectively. It is how to delegate responsibility while also doing so in a respectful manner. There's lots of skills that you learn. This is actually a new level in business where you're no longer the one working the business, you're working on the business. So you need to learn a new set of skills here, and that is the skill of being a leader and of being able to communicate effectively and respectfully to your team so that you are actually somebody that they want to work for. And we can see that she did that well because her family called her blessed. Her husband awoke and her children awoke and called her blessed because they respected her, because she was respectful to them, and she was a good leader. She was loving and she was kind in the way that she led. So this is actually a new tier in business. If you haven't reached that point where you're now leading a team and you're delegating duties, this is kind of a learning curve for some business owners who are going from being the one who are doing the work to being the one who are delegating the work. And it takes that learning curve of being able to develop new skills so that you're able to do this effectively. 31:25, she is clothed with strength and dignity, and she can laugh at the days to come. 33 says her works bring her praise. This can be similar to branding, what we would call branding nowadays. So she understood, and I'm sure back then they probably didn't call it branding, but we're comparing it to now. How can we use these skills and these strategies now? This woman was her brand, and her brand was clothed in dignity, in excellence, in value, in respect, in integrity. That was what her brand was built around. She would have been a very respected person. You can see that it says her works bring her praise. And so she didn't need to prove herself or her products or her business, because she, as a person, became that. She became the brand. And so how can we implement this into our businesses? We have to understand that we are the brand. We are creating a brand, yes, but we are that brand, which means we need to be that person who is respectful. We need to be that person who upholds our values even when circumstances oppose it. Maybe you need the money, but it isn't aligning with your values. You need to be able to say no and uphold your values. You need to work with integrity, honesty, excellence, bring true value. That is actually how we create a brand. It's beyond the making your brand look all cute with the pictures and the right videos, but when you become the brand, it is a way that the Spirit can empower you in business because you are branded. We become the brand of Jesus Christ. We are supposed to bring Jesus to the marketplace, and we cannot bring him to our marketplace if we don't represent him well. So we become a representation of Jesus, and Jesus becomes our brand. And I'm not saying you need to market Jesus in your business, but I'm saying we should be taking on his values and just become a mirror to our world of what Jesus was to other people, so that in all that we do, they can recognize there's something different about that person. There's something different about that business. I want to work with them. They have integrity. They're honest. They bring excellence to the marketplace. And they start to recognize that those qualities are actually pretty hard to come by in today's world. And we are called to have those qualities and to uphold those values because we are a representation of Jesus. So that now becomes our brand. And it's not so much about the colors we're choosing and the perfect videos we're making, but it's about upholding those values, because in doing that, we can receive empowerment from the Holy Spirit, because God wants our business to advance. He wants us to go forward and bring Jesus to the marketplace, but he doesn't want to take us there too soon if we don't have these values instilled in us and then in our business, because we, being the brand, are what uphold those values in our business. And if you are wavering in those values, your business will waver in them as well. And so will your team of people. You need to be able to stand firm in your values and then teach your team how to do the same so that your business is consistent in those values. 126. She speaks with wisdom and faithful instruction on her tongue. And I love this because it is so important, not just in life, but in business, that we use our words wisely. So we can see that this woman, we know she's wise. She made very good decisions. She was wise in all that she did, but she was careful with the words that she spoke. So she would have been speaking positive, life-giving words about her business, her family, her children, her servants. She spoke with wisdom and faithful instruction. So she spoke with faith about what she was doing. Even if things opposed her, which of course at times they would have, she still spoke with faith. She spoke with wisdom, which means that she thought with faith. She thought with wisdom, because our words follow our thoughts. And so in business, it is hard to remain faithful, because you're going to go through times where everything feels like it's against you. It feels like nothing's working out for you. And these are the moments where we need to think, what would she have done? Would she have looked at her circumstances and said, nothing's going to work out for me? Or would she have spoken with faith and with wisdom and used her words to direct her path? And so it takes practice, discipline, dedication to do that. And you're not always going to do it perfectly. I definitely struggle with this sometimes, where circumstances have just been crushing you, and you want to be faithful and you want to remain, but sometimes it is hard. But that's where the discipline comes in. That's where the faith in God comes in, knowing that he's with you in this. He's called you to business. You wouldn't be here if he had not. And you can remain faithful, that he's going to get you through it. And you direct that path through your words. And again, using your focus to think long term. I think that's the key. One of the key takeaways here is that she was always focused beyond her circumstances now. And it's so easy to look at where you're at now and feel like you've been there for forever. But if you could forward focus the way this woman did, you would be able to see that right now it's very temporary. And right now I'm here, but I'm going to get past here. I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to do it through my words, my thoughts, and my actions that follow that. So the last one we're going to look at is 31:28. Her children arise and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Now, I kind of touched on this, and it was just her ability to balance relationships, to balance business, finances, everything. She did it with grace and with harmony. And I truly believe that this woman had a grace on her life to be able to manage all of these tasks well. And I think it's a grace that God has put on many women. And when you really lean on him to be your strength, because there is no way you can go through all this while doing it in a way that your family arises and call you blessed, because you're treating them with respect and with love, despite all of the tasks, all of the people, all of the finances that you're managing. And if you've ever had to be in that position, you know that that can be a heavy burden to carry. And it can be hard sometimes to be that positive, loving person when you feel like there is a lot of stress coming down on you. And so the only way that we as women can really handle that and get through that is by leaning on God's strength, admitting that we can't do it on our own. It's actually just impossible. I've tried. And you will fail if you try to do all this on your own. But if you lean on God's strength and admit that you can't do it on your own, you humble yourself and allow Him to be your strength, allow Him to give you the grace to manage all things, and to just not take on more than you should in terms of saying, this is my business or my family. This is what we talked about last week, is that it's not your burden to carry. It's not your load. You need to actually give that over to God so that it is not your weight and your burden that you are carrying. And in doing so, He carries it for you, and you can be that loving boss and wife and mother, so that they do arise and they call you blessed and they praise you for all the work you have done, because they recognize what you're doing is not easy at all, but you're doing it so well that they want to praise you and they want to thank you for the sacrifices you're making for your family, because they can see that what you do is sacrifice day after day, night after night, waking up for your family and making sure everyone has all that they need. It is a mental overload, a mental overload to carry all of this yourself. And the only way that I have personally found to be able to manage it somewhat well is through the grace of God and by His strength. So I have to assume she was also relying on this, because this lady had a lot going on in her life. So, quick recap. What have we learned? Number one, we need to evaluate opportunities. When we have a vision, evaluate it and make a decision based off of wisdom, not emotion. Step two, we can lead with integrity, with excellence. Seek out how you can bring value to the marketplace that you are in, to the industry that you are in, and do it to the best of your ability. Don't cut corners. Even if it takes longer, know that your work is unto the Lord and that He will reward you for what you have done. Three, I kind of spoke on that, but it's focusing on that quality. So quality over quantity, we always hear this in today's world, and it's true. If you put your all into something, it will be evident to the people that you're bringing it to. So instead of trying to rush through things just to produce, slow down and bring that quality, and choose your materials, learn your skills the way this woman would have had to. And it would have taken her way longer than it would take us, because we have so much more technology available to us. But slow down and learn the skills needed for you to advance to the next level. Maybe it's being that leader now and not a worker. What skills do you need to develop, and how can you develop them? Number four, she was a boss, and she was a good one, because she was not only running her household, but she was managing her staff, which means she was empowering them. And I know for a fact, I've worked for people who empower you and people who don't. And I've always taken away from my experiences to empower the people who work for me, because I can see that when I empower them, when I recognize them, that they realize that I do value them, whether it's paying them a little bit extra for something they've done for me, or just recognizing, hey, you did a good job here. Thank you for going that extra mile. It is the empowerment of people which helps us to build a team, and to recognize that God created them too. And just to honor the people that God has placed in your business and in your life. That has been something that has really helped me to have reliable people working for me, and people I want to keep around. It's really nice to be able to recognize them and to empower them so that they continue to want to work for you and to do better. Number five, not only giving back, but not ignoring God's principles. There's a lot of money principles in the Bible that we need to follow, and giving is just one of them, but it's a major one. It is honoring the Lord with our wealth so He can continue to bless us. And we can see that she did this, and we can see how her business is prospered because she was following God's principles. And this wasn't the only one she followed. It was just the one that we touched on today. Overall, we can see that by working in faith, using diligence, hard work, integrity, honesty, excellence, bringing value to your business is very key in progressing your business. These were all skills and strategies that she implemented on her journey to build generational wealth, on her journey from business to business to business. And she was able to become more in that process of developing and of growing her business. She would have had to learn and to sacrifice and to work hard to learn what was needed for the next step in each business, because each business required a different version of her. So number one is she was working with her hands. And then number two, she's going to take that product, she's going to sell it to the marketplace. So she needs to learn sales. First, she had to learn how to create the product, how to do it well, what kind of materials she needed. Then she needed to learn skill of selling, of being with people. And then she is managing a team. How can she manage effectively? How can she be a good leader? How can she empower her team? So you can see how she would have taken the time to learn these skills and to develop herself along the way. She was becoming more as her businesses were becoming more. So be patient with yourself as you learn new skills, as you develop more, as you become more, as you try new avenues in business, and ask the Lord for guidance. Pray that He will give you creativity, innovation, and insight to take your business to new marketplaces and to think outside the box. Because remember, what we have in our hands now is enough. Next time, we're going to talk about her characteristics, her values, how we can become more like her. And then I want to talk about the streams of income that she focused on and how we too can focus on similar streams of income so that we can be on our journey to create generational wealth in our time. Comment below which one you'd be more interested in next. And remember, if you enjoyed this, if you want to do more Bible studies together, then make sure you subscribe to my channel and join me in these studies, becoming more. Have a really great day and a blessed week. And I pray that the Lord would favor you, that He would make His face to shine upon you, and that His goodness and mercy would follow you all the days of your life.